in front of the Daily Times. On the banner headline in front of that place says, why political godfathers, godsons disagree, coming from Senator Suswan. With rider there says, moles, betrayers destroying PDP. Shetima urges political leaders to project Nigeria's cultural diversity, and Tinubu calls for inclusiveness in addressing global challenges. All right, that's the much we have in front of the Daily Times newspaper. Lolo.
First of all, I would want to react to the Vice President calling leaders to project Nigeria's cultural diversity. In a sane society, that is how it should be. We must understand that there is strength in diversity, as it's usually said. And when we are looking at our strengths, what we should be looking for is, at what point in time does your strength outwit mine, and what do you have to present to the table? It is in making these considerations and bringing them on the table that we can have, one, beyond inclusiveness, carry everybody along, and then have that development that we actually crave. Because things don't actually work well when some people are toiling every day, whereas others are doing virtually nothing and sometimes even benefiting more than those who are putting in the hard work. And some persons will say that's how the society works. But I want to believe that we want to leave the society better than we met it. And not because what's happening in society is favoring us, then let it continue that way in perpetuity. We want to call on our leaders, especially the active leaders. Nigerians, we are tired of having those people who are the policy makers, who are the policy implementers, always complaining to the citizens. What do they expect, or what do they want the citizens to do? They know, thank God it's coming from them. So since they understand the importance of diversity, and especially our cultural diversity, they should put it into work.
All right, I think as we move on, because there's this story. Please, the director should put back the Daily Times newspaper in front on the screen, please. Okay. Now, this picture in front of the paper says operatives of Rapid Response Squad led officials of Agege Local Government Council to serve removal notice on kiosk owners and shanty dwellers in Agege as part of measures to address security challenges in Agege. You know, I read it and I was touched by that story because it's human angles, so to speak. And we know that most times in this part of the world, they will just go to a place, move people away from the place without providing an alternative place for them to stay, you know. And let it not be that in the course of you trying to fight insecurity, you are actually increasing it. So
adding to it, talking about our diversity,
okay.
Really, I think in society, our government must also understand that there are the rich, or what we call the have and the have not. And there is this people that we call the middle class. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are eroding the middle class. Everybody is going down. Of course, the poverty rate, those who can afford 3 square meals is reducing drastically. Now, look at the shanty. Now, the question is, I want to believe that at the global stage, the global leaders come on board. What they do is they use data set to say this is the number of people that we have in the country that are poor. This is the number. What this shows now is for people to be living in this kind of environment, one, it shows they can't afford adequate housing.
I think that place is a market.
Both markets, there are kiosks there, people are living there.
Okay.
And why should people even be subjected to this kind of environment at the 21st century? It is to make our leaders understand that they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of planning to do. And they must protect the dignity of the human race. No Nigerian should be allowed to continue to live in this kind of environment for the health benefit and for the sanity of the Nigerian. So that if they see that the government care for them, when you talk about patriotism, they will have a reason to be patriotic.
And, now that the government wants to move them, what do you think government should do to make sure that these people don't go into harder times than what they are already facing?
Of course, we expect the government, of course, they hold the master piece. That's the master plan of the state, especially in Lagos State at this time around. They know where they can relocate these citizens to. But before they relocate them, there should have been an adequate provision of lock-up stores, well beautified, so that you are not telling these people, you are living here, this is where you are going to. But the mere fact that we have not seen this kind of arrangement, I bet you it is as usual. At the appointed time, you go in there, you clear every environment, which is good. I mean, we want the environment to actually become presentable, but not in the manner our government representatives have been doing it.
All right,
representing us at all.
All right, the Punch newspaper is next in our lineup. Let's see stories in front of the Punch. Petrol subsidy, fuel crisis worsens as depots divert PMS to Abuja. We have read as the NNPC rations supply to depots, orders operators to prioritize loading to Abuja. Queues spread in Lagos, Ogun, others stations raise pump prices as black market thrives. And I think that's the picture in front of that paper. We can see vehicles, they're filled in the petrol stations. Now, a man accused of cement theft jumps into Lagos Lagoon, dies. Police launch probe as gunmen kill Ayede Tiwaze campaign coordinator. Abiodu orders residents evacuation after Ogun gas explosion. Now, Edenuga at 71, jack of all trades, master of all. Rivers explosion, FRSC blames drivers as president. Governors mourn victims. Naira rebounds to 1,275 per dollar at parallel market. Removing fuel subsidy saved Nigeria from bankruptcy. That's coming from the president, Tinubu. Okay, now this man that jumped into Lagoon, and I saw the story over the weekend. It's like he wanted to evade arrest or something like that. And I was talking with somebody, and we said Nigerians or Nigeria we don't really look at this mental health issue as anything, and I don't know, it's really causing a lot of damage to our people.
It's unfortunate that these things keep happening. It's not the first time Nigerians try to evade arrest. Of course, it's unfortunate that
to the point of jumping into Lagoon.
It's unfortunate also that he has to subject himself to wanting to go and steal. And this is to call the attention of the government what awaits every citizen if they don't do what they are expected to do for the welfare of the citizens. Many would be thrown into unwelcoming situation, as we have found. And when we talk about the mental health of Nigerians, I share that sentiment too, because we seem not to have come up with a national framework. I know the national what is it called now? This Psychologists Association. They've over time made mention of bringing a framework, having a mental health law. They want to have themselves well organized, and I shared their sentiment that we need to have more pronounced psychologists with their offices, having national programs around it, because the poverty situation, the living condition that Nigerians have found themselves keep throwing them off balance. And beyond having the strength to deal with
this situation,
I think they also need adequate information. And in Nigeria, we need an adequate data it will really back up why there is need for mental health intervention. If we have all these, we will not really be at where we are. One, having citizens to go steal, or even when we have stolen. The question is, what would even make you want to take your life beyond as a way of evading arrest? So these are the situations that we're coming on board. And another story that caught my attention is that it was campaign
coordinator that was killed.
We keep telling Nigerians to understand that it's unfortunate that we keep dying over issues that should not kill us. This man, I wonder the family members that he left behind, and the people that will take care of them. When it comes to politics, it is not what the ambition of any political actor is not what the life of any citizen. I want Nigeria to get to the stage where we will begin to value the life of every citizen, both in Nigeria and diaspora. It is because we don't value this life of Nigerians. That is why even when people die these days, instead of Nigerians whom we know used to run around to preserve life or to save life, bring out phone and begin to snap somebody that is dying, because they have lost the sense of the value of life, and we need to call that back. All these things, including the fuel hike, the FS hike, we sure know that it's having huge impact in the lives of the citizens. And then the next big question is, how is our school curriculum like? These conversations, are they brought up in the school to prepare an average Nigerian, especially the growing children? Because as this impact is heavy, whatever impact it has on the parents, indirectly and directly, it's also affecting them.
The children.
So what are the school doing to ensure that these children are well prepared? When it comes to healthcare facilities, what is the quality of health that Nigerians can get, so that when they go to these primary healthcare centers, the officers in charge there or the healthcare personnel can have the capacity to train or to treat whatever challenge, to manage the mental health situations and every other diseases that Nigerians face themselves.
All right, let's move on to the Vanguard newspaper now. Let's see stories in front of the Vanguard. And this petrol scarcity seems to be in banner headlines in most of the papers. But we're going to look at it, but that will be much later, I think, because all the papers here carry the story. And now petrol scarcity will linger 2 more weeks. That's coming from Ipman. As scarcity spreads nationwide, long queues emerge at filling stations. Hawkers sell petrol at 1,000 naira per litre. Commuters are stranded at motor parks. We have adequate stock, NNPC speaking. Scarcity hurting businesses, transport operators. Now we removed petrol subsidy to avoid bankruptcy, coming from our president. Okay, Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, FG begins enforcement of right of way. Why Naira depreciated by 23% in 4 days? Currency dealers, analysts speaking. Banks, end users, round trip forex from parallel market to official markets. BDCs cite slow intervention from CBN. Naira appreciation as CBN expedites intervention, intensify enforcement. Okay, Sanwo-Olu sacks 424 LWC redundant officials. Ondoguba, Yedituwa's campaign coordinator, killed by gunmen. Edoguba, why Obi, Shaibu, Ajote, others are ganging up against Obaseki. Zenith Bank's shareholders approved transition to hold core structure. Okay, I don't know which of the stories you look at before we move on to the next paper. Do we look at the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, which Atiku had been, firing the president or the government in power, that they need to be transparent, let Nigerians know how much they are using to build the road and all whatnot. So now the government has begun enforcement of right of way. You know that before now, they asked some people to move their businesses away from there.
I know this
The man, they gave 7 days ultimatum. I don't know what had become of him.
This unfortunate emergency situation affected the popular landmark beach in Lagos State. I don't want to dabble into the political situation that have been going on. My concern is, one thing that I'm seeing clearly playing out here is the propensity of our political leaders to listen to the citizens. We know when, of course, the coastal highway conversation have been ongoing even before the current administration. And there has been a lot of secrecy,
shrouded,
unclear things around the project. And Nigerians have called the federal government out, asking them a lot of questions. And at every point in time when they try to respond to the questions, they keep saying what we know already. That you begin to hear political statements that nothing can stop the coastal highway coming to light. That the federal government has approved. So, but the issues there is there are a lot of gray areas that we think must be looked into. The landmark situation is still there. Yesterday and 2 days ago, what started making the news is that the government had started demolishing some structures there. And unfortunately, the Lagos state government is claiming, now speaking on behalf of the federal government, because I know this is a federal government project, now saying that it is only the shanties that they are destroying. We are watching these things play out. However, we know the rights of every Nigerian must be protected. I charge the landmark because it's not just an individual's business now. There are many businesses that are going to be affected. They can use the instrument of the law. Even though an average Nigerian don't trust the legal system of Nigeria, which is on another indictment that we should begin to look at. But we will continue to test the law. I charge them to take the government to court. Even if they don't get justice now, they are sure to get justice. It's unfortunate that these things are happening, and we are crying that the dollar is unstable. Whereas, to make the dollar stable, to make the dollar strength and the naira strong, what we need to do is to become more productive, to bring more persons into productions and manufacturing sector. Then those people who are doing meaningfully well for Nigeria, we are destroying the businesses. I don't think Nigeria can grow this way. And when we complain and say that the country does not have the potentials of growth, these are the things we are looking at. There are things we look at and say the government is improving.
All right. I think most of the things we are discussing this morning is what do I call it? Is really touching. Like you said something about government listening to her citizens. Will there ever come a time like that in Nigeria when government will rise up to say something and her would like to seek opinion of our citizens and of course listen to what the citizens had to say, But let's move on. We believe that one day things will turn out for good in this nation. Now let's look at the Daily Independent newspaper and see stories making their headlines in front of that paper. Nigeria would have gone bankrupt without a subsidy cut. That's coming from Tinubu, that president. We tried, as there says, government prepared for turbulence of subsidy cut, naira float. Secure $600 million seaport infrastructure deal was Samsung. Undogo Bayede was support. Okay, we've seen that. 19 burned to death in Kogi auto crash. Shareholders approved Nigerian breweries 600 billion naira capital raising plan. Serap sues NNPC to account for $2.04 billion, 164 billion naira oil revenue. Zenith Bank poised for growth as shareholders okay hold cost structure. LG chairman asks court to order state IGP others to secure them. That's Rivers crisis. APC cakes as PDP clears all 33 council seats in Oyo local government polls. State police will worsen security situation. That's coming from Soso. Soso was a former governor of Benue State. Okay. All right. Senate worried over Naira depreciation. Can we look at this banner headline, because I've seen it over and over, in some of the papers we've looked at. Our president talking about Nigeria would have gone bankrupt without subsidy cut.
What I see most times from the statement of the president, of the presidency, if I can bring all of them together, and then our political representatives, are sometimes they know the reality, but when they talk away from the reality. They speak with what they have in their head, thinking that is what, or they speak with what they have in their head as if they want to bring it out from their head and then place it to become the reality, which is not always the situation. We remember clearly when the president was being sworn in, there and then at Eagle Square, he clearly said subsidy was gone. And if subsidy was gone, it means that Nigerians will begin to purchase the petrol at whatever constant value or whatever value of the petrol at that point in time. And we have looked at a lot of things that are going on. At the international market, there has been rise and fall of petrol. Even in Nigeria, there has been constant rise. And we know that Nigeria is predominantly an importing.
And what has really happened to all the promises of refineries coming up in the country?
Those ones are even secondary. We are still looking at, let us maintain the status that we are operating. Nigeria is predominantly an importing nation. We import virtually everything, including the petrol, until Dangote refinery came up on stream. If dollar has been increasing all along, and we have been paying for virtually the same amount of petrol, reasonably the same amount, if you look at the range, the question is, who has been paying for the rest? It is clear that, and I know that there have been publications suggesting that Nigeria is even subsidizing petrol now more than we were being made to subsidize it before, at ₦1 trillion. But when the government comes up, they tell us that they keep continuing to talk about their subsidy. Nothing stops. I think for a government to grow, they should look at their policies when they do the review. They can admit mistake. They can say, we are still subsidizing. Nobody will kill them. But for them to continue to subsidize, and when they come to the press, they say something else, it is not acceptable. Okay, we charge the government if they have been subsidizing petrol, as they make us to understand, how much have they saved so far? These are the questions that we should begin to ask. And then let's go down to our refineries. At what point would we have our refineries working and working very well? Over the years, we've been made to understand that the Port Harcourt refinery would become active. Even that was last year. Everybody, Nigerians were celebrating. Last year passed. They said first quarter of this year. We've passed the first quarter, and no conversation is going on with money.
And over the years, accountability has been one thing in this nation that doesn't really come up in any government. Because accountability could actually help to check some of the excesses of those in power.
And that was why we said, even beyond the accountability measure, so I think we need more active citizens. Okay. Let citizens become more directional in what they want and how they want it from the
citizen. A citizen that is hungry, what comes to mind is to eat food first, don't to think of, and you are asking the citizen to go and start asking questions.
So that you're hungry is not enough reasons for you to be angry. So that is the question we should be asking. And finally, looking at it critically, we don't even know the components, what we call in a contract, the breakdown of the contract. I think all these things should be made public. We are not saying they should go to our houses and give it to us. We have the national dailies. Some of these things should be published there to show that, because the enterprise called Nigeria is not only owned by our leaders. It is co-owned both by the leaders and
the land.
So what we want is, when these contracts are being
well, Ololo, what the picture you're painting here is what it should be, in the real sense of it. In a Senate climb, these things come up. At least you've watched when somebody will come up to say that he's vying for a position. You hear questions from the ordinary citizen. People ask questions and upon questions and questions, and if you don't do well, they have the right to recall you back. But can you actually do that here? We pray that we continue to grow until we get to that level when what you're saying will be seen, because even some people that are activists in this nation, they say so many things. At the end of the day, you see a different thing coming up. I remember that each year of election in Nigeria, the civil society, they have situation room, they do a lot of things to ensure that things go well. At the end of the day, it boils down to what it used to be. So we just pray and hope that things will work out for this nation one day. Let's look at the Nation newspaper and see stories making the headlines in front of the nation. Petrol scarcity spreads to Lagos, Oyo, Ondo, Osun, Edo, others. Electricity crisis, Lagos, Edo, Oyo awaits next node. Enugu, Ekiti, Ondo blaze the trail. Okay, bandits, terrorists killed 90 policemen. Okay, killed 90 policemen in 1 year. Okay, we also have other stories, how banks plan to meet recapitalization conditions. 19 die in Okene Lokoja highway crash. And 130 vehicles burnt in Rivers tanker fire. Okay, that's Rivers tanker fire. I saw in the other paper where road safety was blaming drivers for that incident that happened. A lot of vehicles and human beings also lost their lives in that inferno.
First of all, whether we blame the driver, whether we blame the condition of the vehicle, as well as the owners of the vehicle, or whether we blame road safety, the unfortunate event there is Nigerians lost their lives, first of all. And we want to have institutions of the government being proactive. Unfortunately, I would not call names. Many of the agencies of the government, when they go out to carry out their statutory duties as mandated by law, they are after money. And the fact that what they are looking for is what they can get, it has blinded them from the little things that they should ensure are in check for protection of lives and properties. Because if these things have been done, a lot of events would have been averted. Reading the story, there have been a lot of information coming out, some even saying that it is due to bad road.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Due to bad road. And I want to...
I think that the vehicles that got burnt, they were in hold up.
Exactly. So you see, this is the conversation that we keep having, and we are talking about constructing coastal highway, whereas there are things that we should begin.
And I think we have to give kudos to the state government. There's something I noticed last week. Today is Monday, right? I think it was on Friday. I noticed something in Onitsha. You no longer see traffic in Onitsha. And I noticed that there's something they started doing. All the keke drivers, they now have loading bays. So you hardly see traffic in Onitsha. And I was like, wow. So this thing is doable.
All these things are doable. Just what we want is a government that listens, a government that feels the pains of the masses, and a government that is willing to work. Because, we agree that nobody is perfect. Sometimes, when you see these situations, that is why you are being paid. Okay. You hold your meetings and ask. You can even consult. What are the way out? If we do it this way, what is the implication? And we know that unfortunately in Nigeria, because people want to make their daily bread, you see some of these commercial drivers stopping where they are not supposed to stop. Sometimes stopping at the middle of the road. These people are also they are also what their actions are also affecting movement. But when you clear the system, there becomes sanity. There are some things people would not be doing anymore, and that is making me understand that in Nigeria we want more of strong laws, strong institutions than strong people.
Okay.
Because when those strong people leave, what happens next? But when we have a functional institution, they would ensure that the citizens obey the law. And some of these events or casualties, when they happen, they will not really give us as many as the kind of death rates that we usually record.
All right, let's see the Guardian newspaper. That's the next paper for review. Forex rate harmonization. CBN abandons unification policy, reintroduces discriminatory rates. Okay, also in front of the Guardian, you see investors of 15 listed firms to forfeit 2023 dividends. Presidential fleet gulps $8 million in 2 years amid safety concerns. Gunmen kill Lucky Ayedatiwa's campaign coordinator. The misguided invasion of Oyo State Assembly, matters are rising. Lamido slams northern governors over security meeting in U.S. Two notorious drug kingpins bag life jail for cocaine trafficking. PDP divided as Obi group reject Igodalo. APC kicks as PDP wins all seats in Oyo LGA poll, and mixed reaction trail UK Rwanda asylum operation. All right, these are some of the stories making their headlines in front of the Guardian newspaper. Quickly.
The presidential fleet, unfortunately, there is this report that the president had to go using commercial airline to Saudi Arabia, where he happened to be, because of two presidential fleets spoiling at the same time. I'm still trying to verify the authenticity of that
report.
But the thing there is, we keep talking about reducing cost of governance, because these resources actually have better areas, better sectors where they can make impact. And at every point in time, we hear the amount of money that is being spent on the presidential fleet.
Huge amount.
Huge amount. But we know that some of these things are expected to be maintained. But these are what the citizens actually look out for. And when the citizens are not supporting the government, sometimes the leaders think these people, they don't know from what planet they are coming. But it is a matter of connection. The citizens don't want to see that connection between themselves and their leaders. An average Nigerian cannot be hungry, and we are talking about millions of dollars or millions in dollars that they are using to service a lot of things that to you might be important, but is making no impact in the lives of the citizens. And for all these things have an effect, and they have their ripple effect. It affects the economy, it affects security, it affects way of life, it affects healthcare. But when the government places the citizens at the center of development, whatever they are doing, no matter what they want to do, they should first of all consider what is the impact of this policy
on the citizens.
On the citizens.
All right.
If they carry out that impact assessment, it will then show them whether to continue or whether not to continue.
All right, I just pray and hope authorities concerned are listening to us this morning to, really see whether they can pick one or two things we're saying here. The Daily Trust newspaper is the next daily we are looking at. Meningitis kills 85 persons in Yobe. War on Gaza. OIC, 6 Arab countries seek sanctions against Israel. 19 burnt to death in Kogi auto crash. Petrol scarcity worsens nationwide. Depots have run out of stock. Marketers speaking, we are not in short supply. NNPCL. Which one do we follow now? Okay. Does it mean that marketers did not go to lift the products from NNPC? All right. How prices of rice, meat, gari rose in March. That's coming from NBS. And we also have other stories there. Insurgency, Zulum pushes for return of Malam for Tori residents. Man kills wife in Ekiti over alleged infidelity. Shareholders approve Zenith Bank's holdco structure. Okay, these are the stories. Now, I don't know which story we are going to take. The depots, the marketers are saying that depots have run out of stock of petrol. Then NNPC are saying we are not in short supply. So where do we go from here? Which one do we hold on to as Nigerians? Because once with this now in front of all the national dailies, you needed to see what will be happening in as much as they told us the states where the scarcity are. Go out now to Oka here in the filling stations and see what will be happening.
One thing is sure. With everything that happens in Nigeria daily, weekly, monthly, we keep seeing both communication gap. We keep seeing people who are not living in reality. And then the reality on ground always confirms what the citizens are complaining about. But when the leaders react to these issues, they say something else. NNPC cannot be telling us that they are not in short supply. I mean, they have adequate supply of petrol, whereas they are queues. Whereas the pump price.
That was why I asked that question. Does it mean the marketers did not go to lift the product from NNPC, or who is now telling us the truth and who is not telling us the truth?
If we look at it, for me, I'm going to say I would go the way of the marketers because they are not new in business, and these people are businessmen who would want to always
have
supplies to continue to meet the demand of the citizens so that they can make their profits.
Okay.
They would not know that they are running short of supply and not go. They have their channel of their chain of supply really. So what happens to that chain of supply?
All right, quickly, let's look at the Nigerian Tribune because of our time. Before we wrap up the show, Senate expresses concern over Naira depreciation. We have read as there blames fiscal deficit, functions in crude oil prices. Fluctuations in crude oil prices. Naira weakens under renewed attack by crypto traders, despite $17.93 billion market turnover. Okay, we see Coastal Road affected. Okay, we've seen that before. Why we ended petrol subsidy, President Ganduje's probe commission Commission of Inquiry holds inaugural session today. NAS Constitution Review Committee to meet Tinubu. Okay, and gunmen. Okay, we've seen that. Accident claims 19 lives. Very sad situation there. We've not come out from what happened in Port Harcourt, and here 19 lives were lost in Okene-Lokoja Highway.
Like that's what we keep saying. Nigerians keep losing their lives, and it's making us to really query the value of life in Nigeria. If you are to equate life in Nigeria, what would you say this is the equivalent? Because every day we hear stories of Nigerians being killed by different ways, in different ways. Other human beings, sometimes terrorists, sometimes headmen, sometimes the Fulani headers and all those things, killing Nigerians in some areas. You see accidents that are preventable. We just talked about Rivers State. We've talked about Kogi. Now we're talking about accident in Okene Highway. These things should not really continue to happen. And in a very sane society with proactive leaders, if these things happen once, ordinarily should not even happen. But what they should do is call for review, know what to do to forestall them, and even sensitize the citizens on what to do. Because we have leadership that are interested in what they are going to get for themselves, we keep hearing blame games. And that blame games have come down to what you have it now, the Naira depreciation. And you are seeing them talking about crypto, that it is crypto that is the cause. crypto that other countries have embraced, and not talking about how to regulate it so that it fits in perfectly into the economy. Well, that is what Nigerians leaders are laying blame to, and we have told them it is not crypto. Increase production. We want more youth to go into productivity. We have the medium, small scale enterprises. How is government funding it?
All right, we can actually go on and on, but I think that's the much time could allow us take on the press review. A lot of questions hanging in there for our leaders to answer, and of course a lot of things the led also need to know and do so that our nation shall be greater once again. We'd like to thank you so much, Samuel Ololu, for being here this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, and that does it on the press review for this morning. Thank you so much for watching. But remember, we have other things coming up on Good Morning Anambra Show, so do stay.